Hey everybody, it's DJ Nikki in the studio today with Jonathan Cortez from elwoodcity.org for your weekly news wrap-up. So, we kind of have a lot to talk about today, yeah?
Yep.
All right, so we're going to get it started. Go ahead, hit me with your top gossip news, whatever you got.
We don't have gossip at elwoodcity.org.
We don't do gossip.
Just news. Well, there was a discussion at the Elwood City School Board meeting this week about the lunch policy, the food service policy. So after there was some visitor comments about it, because essentially students, once they have a $6.75 overdrawn account,
like a debt.
Debt, they can't purchase a meal anymore. And some students will go through the line with their meal and then they go to pay, and then their meal gets thrown away. And there were some visitors who believe that every student should get a meal, and I mean, I would agree with that as well. Everybody should be able to eat in school, but there are a couple other factors to take into consideration in that. Right. So, K through 6th, they do get a meal. They get a state reimbursed meal that is a sunflower butter and jelly sandwich, whatever that is. There's all kinds of different nut butters now, so
right.
Maybe they don't have peanut butter because of allergies.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah,
because the peanut butter allergy was a scary thing. I remember when my kids were little and they had some fun day at school or something. I remember the one time I sent in peanut butter cookies. They not only did not allow the kids to eat them, but they literally called me and made me come and get them. They didn't even want them in the school.
Yeah, well, I guess some people can die from that.
Yeah.
Just from
and I hadn't even even realized it. And I sent them in, and my son was like, "My mom made peanut butter cookies," and they were like, "Boom!" They whisked them away to the office. They called me and they were like, "Come get these right now." And I was like, "Oh, didn't realize." Sorry.
I guess this is a pointless thing to think about, but I want to know why sunflower butter over all of the other kinds of butters, because you got hazelnut, almond butter, cashew butter. Why is this one?
Maybe sunflowers are cost effective.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to be giving something away for free, you want to use the most cost effective means possible. And hazelnuts and things like that, those are expensive.
That is true, yeah.
So that's probably why.
Yeah, and they also get milk and a vegetable and a fruit. So
right, so they get an essential lunch, but that's only K through 6.
Yeah, and in 7 through 12, first of all, everybody who is on a free or reduced lunch plan does get a meal.
They don't go into an arrearage.
Yeah.
They just get,
So it's only...
Unless they have the reduced lunch, then they could still build up. So at a reduced lunch rate, if they didn't have money in their account...
No, I think they still get it because the state the school will get reimbursed for that, I believe. Okay. Yeah, I'm almost positive that
but if
it's not just free, it's reduced as well. Like, you can a debt, I suppose.
That's what I mean. Like, if they have that $6.75 cutoff, if you got a reduced lunch at 30 cents, but you didn't bring in money for 2 weeks, you would eventually hit that cutoff.
Yeah, I'd have to ask, because I think what the thing is that this district will get reimbursed enough for that. I'm not
sure.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I understand that there has to be a cutoff because there were parents who were ending up with a big bill at the end of the year. And then the school was able to say, well, if you want your kid to go on to the next grade or you want your kid to graduate, this has to be paid. But I don't know. I think if I had been at the meeting, it would have been my opinion that the cutoff amount should equal at least 7 days worth of meals. Like
5 or 7. You want to do 7?
Well, the reason I'm saying 7, because I understand, on Monday through Friday, okay, but if a parent is having, an off week, they're not determined to get free or reduced, but they're having an off week. Some, water line breaks, car engine blows. I mean, if you let that kid go 7 days worth of allotment, then the parent is able to get themselves to the next paycheck. So that they can make up for that. I'm just saying that the $6.75 ends up only being 3 days.
Yeah.
So if somebody's having an off week, their kid's going to go hungry for part of that week. I don't know. That would just be my opinion, is that it should be at least, their kids should at least be able to eat for a week. But I know Elwood also does a program for the kids who are really underprivileged. They actually send home food in their book bags to get them through the weekend. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, I do know about that. Yeah, because unfortunately there are students who, if they don't eat at Lincoln,
they don't eat
and they
at
don't,
home.
if they don't, yeah, they don't eat at home. What their breakfast and lunch at
Is when they're at school. Yeah, so the
Yeah.
school, and the state was worried about these kids going the whole weekend and being hungry. And my daughter said that she was in school and this little kid misunderstood the question, and I don't remember how it was. Oh, I know what it was. The teacher was saying, there are kids who will go all weekend with no food. There are kids who have no food at home. The kid misunderstood and thought it was a question, and he raised his hand, like she was asking how many kids aren't going to eat. And then my daughter said that the kid was really, one, embarrassed that he was someone who wouldn't eat, and two, that he had misunderstood that she wasn't asking a question. But my kids are very compassionate people, so my daughter immediately was like, well, maybe we should have him come over to play video games. That way he can eat at our house,
Well, that was nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I've like little peacekeeper kids. They have enough of their attitude built up, but when you strip it all away, like my kids, I'm proud that my kids are really compassionate people. I always said that my kids aren't perfect, but they would give someone their shirt off their back. They would literally just would do that. But anyway, so we had the meeting about the school lunches, and you said they decided to keep it at the $6.75.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, yeah, because, there is where should we draw the line, and, some of the administration in the building in the room who were also parents of high school kids just said, we don't want it. It's better as a parent if it's a lower number so you don't find out. And another visitor who did pretty much side with the school board said, it comes down to either a parent's responsibility or kid's responsibility, because sometimes, a parent will give a student, they'll pay enough money for that week and even some extra, because there's a la carte items.
Yeah.
And the kids just...
My kids are always saying, we want cookies, we want fruit roll-ups, we need cash. But yeah, that's what happens is kids misappropriate the funds to buy other things that they want, and then they don't pay for the lunches. So
and finally, there's some students who they don't want to eat in school. Everybody has different eating habits. Like personally, after 2 hours of not eating, I'm usually starting to get hungry.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I feel you.
But I had a roommate who could go to 8 p.m. without realizing she hadn't eaten.
Yeah. Okay. So what else? Was there anything else at that meeting of interest?
There was an very unofficial passing mention of a school merger. So I do want to stress that this is super unofficial. It was just a district that isn't Riverside. And from the information I know, I would be fairly confident with saying that it's probably nothing's going to develop from that.
Yeah.
But I mean, many members on the school board are interested in taking steps towards a merger because the school hasn't gotten its money from the state yet. That's approximately 60% of its funding comes from the state. We're getting some of that money.
Why is it being held up? I don't understand.
Because the state hasn't passed the budget yet.
Oh.
Yeah, their budget, they're supposed to do it in June, and we're almost to this June.
We're almost to the next June.
They haven't. There's even been just trouble just getting a bill passed that would send out funds for all of the state-funded programs.
Yeah.
School districts across the state are hurting. There's a few, the wealthier areas where they have higher tax rates are doing okay, but some of the stuff I've gathered about this, the state did send out a list of requirements for school districts that want to for school districts to close.
Oh,
and according to our superintendent Joe Mancini, it's almost impossible to meet all the criteria because the aim is Harrisburg doesn't want the schools to close.
Yeah.
A lot of schools are just running out of money. They can't.
Yeah.
They can't pay their. They won't be able to pay the
employees,
to make payroll. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the biggest costs right there. And like things like, I believe some of the things, including lunches and things like that, are still getting paid, but the money from the state that's used for payroll and the other, all of the other bills they're not getting it. So as one of the members, Leroy Cortez, who is also my dad, said at the meeting, like the people in Harrisburg, they can just not get their job done and there's no repercussions. But if the school board doesn't have a budget passed by June 30th, they'll start getting fined. The district will start getting fined, even though they have to make a budget without having any idea what the Harrisburg budget is.
Wow.
And this will be the second year that happens.
That's...
And there was like some luncheon where you can meet with a few representatives to talk about it. I'm not sure when it is. It's sometime this month, I think. And Mr. Cortez also said, like, I don't want to pay $25 just to ask somebody why they haven't done their job yet.
And probably for them to not give an answer anyway.
Yeah, they're just going to
yeah.
just give a bunch of vague, oh, we're blah, blah, blah problem.
Right.
We're working on it soon, blah, blah, compromise. Blah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, give some roundabout answers. So, all right, let's, you were talking about representatives and stuff. You had a little bit you wanted to talk about Jared Gibbons.
Yeah, so with our area representative, Jared Gibbons, there was an article that Calkins Media, which owns the Ledger, published, and they published it in the Ledger, that it was a neutral article. It didn't take a stance, but Gibbons did get some attacks from Republicans for having a higher per diem rate, which is his travel expenses. So since Jared Gibbons is in Lawrence County, his travel expenses to get to Harrisburg are going to be higher.
Right, so people need to understand when they're reading it, it's not, when they say higher per diem, they're not saying that he's getting paid more per mile or more for lunch expenses. What they're saying is he's utilizing them more, which means he's traveling from Elwood to Harrisburg, which is like a 5.5 or a 6 hour drive. You know, like you had said before we came on the air, obviously it's going to be higher than someone who lives in Lancaster because the travel to Harrisburg is shorter. And so it's, if someone were to say to me, oh, Jared Gibbons is getting a higher per diem than another representative, I would misunderstand that and think that he was getting a higher rate.
Yeah.
So it's not really that he gets a higher rate. It's just that he has to utilize all those hours to go to Harrisburg. And the fact of the matter is, it just means he's doing his job. It means he is going there.
Yeah.
You know.
And he did have a higher one. I don't know by how much, but he had a higher one than other people in Western Pennsylvania, which just means that he's going to Harrisburg more than the
often
other
than
ones.
they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's not pocket money. It's he uses it for gas and food and lodging.
Right.
So, and it's a fairly standard practice in the private sector as well. If you work for a company and they want you to go to Philadelphia for a weekend,
you get reimbursed for gas, travel, lodging, whatever. Yeah.
So,
my husband used to have to travel a lot to New York, and he would get his paycheck on a Friday, and then on Monday he would get an expense check.
Yeah.
And it was, you know, for the 2 weeks prior of all the because he would drive from Elwood City to New York and whatever. Now, the company had paid the hotel bill, but his travel from Elwood City to New York and then also whatever meals they ate, that was what got reimbursed to him, you know. And they had a limit. It wasn't like he could just choose to eat a Red Lobster every day.
Yeah.
You know, they were given like a $30 a day, which is pretty much $10 a meal. Not a lot, you know.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make clear that Jared is not being paid a higher rate. He's just having a higher expense than some other ones because he is going to Harrisburg and he is doing his job. And so, and another thing is if he were, say he drove a vehicle or the gas prices went up and his budget hadn't changed, if he uses more than what's allotted, then he has to pay for it out of his own pocket.
Yeah. If he's driving a Hummer to Philadelphia, he's not getting
going to be reimbursed enough.
Whole amount. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah, Jared, if you're listening, don't ever drive a Hummer to Harrisburg. Get yourself a smart car.
Though, with the way things are going, I think maybe just the entire legislature should just get locked in a room and not be allowed to leave and just be given $10 of food a day until they pass this budget.
Be like, you are not leaving until you get this budget passed. Okay, so anything else coming up this week? Or
we just got a couple sports-related announcements. So we'll start with the good news. In Elwood Wrestling, Tyler Alberts, well, this is a few weeks ago, he was second in the Whippeals, and then he was fourth in the Southwest Regionals, and he competed at the PIAAs this weekend. So not sure how he did yet, but congratulations to him.
Yeah, he's doing very well.
And he's a junior. And then another junior, Taylor Petrak, in swimming. So we don't have a swimming team. She just swims as an individual. She won the 50-yard freestyle at the Whippeals and was second in the 100-yard.
Nice.
And she'll be competing at states next week. And last year she won, I believe she won the 50. So as far as I know, there's only 2 Elwood athletes who ever won an individual gold medal at the PIAA. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure. So Taylor's won, and Jake Walker won the 3,200 meter run and track in, I don't know what year, but I was in school then, so like 2007 maybe, 2006, I'm not sure. But so, they're pretty much in a league of their own in Elwood athletes, so, and in individual competition. So and Taylor also set the record, the Whippeal record in the 50, but she broke the record. She didn't set the record because she was second, so the first place winner also is the one that
who actually set the record,
which was her
but
own.
They both broke the record.
Yeah, they both broke the record, and the person who has the record had the record last year as well. She set the record.
Okay. So she beat her own record.
Yeah, which Taylor also beat.
Okay. I know a couple of weeks ago we had talked about the kid from Elwood, the football player that got the Colgate sponsorship.
Yeah.
Scholarship. What was his name again? Do you remember?
His last name's hard to say. It's Nick Ionelli.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to mention to you that right after you had let everybody know that this kid was like amazing, got this Colgate scholarship and everything, our new sports talk show started recording in the studio, which is actually, this weekend is the first weekend the sports talk show will start. And I talked to Don Costa, and he's going to get Nick as a guest.
Oh, okay, that's great.
Yeah, so I was all excited to have a young, upcoming Elwood athlete on Don Costa's show. So I'm real excited. So that's going to be coming up soon in just a couple weeks. So it was funny because as soon as he had mentioned him, I was like, oh, I already heard about him from Jonathan Cortez. I was already filled in on that one, so I was excited. Do we have any other upcoming community events?
I was not quite done with sports.
Oh, wow.
So both of our varsity basketball coaches have resigned. So if anyone's interested in coaching a team in a very competitive AAA section
for basketball,
they can sign up. Yeah, so
we should pass the word along, because the another guest that Don Costa has coming up next week is actually Ron Galbraith, and he's an amazing basketball coach.
Oh, I don't know who
he was like, he's the coach at Westminster.
Oh, okay.
And he was at Geneva for a while, and he was like all-star national, he was a big, huge deal. So I don't know what he's doing these days, but maybe we should pass the word along that he should come out of retirement.
The girls coach, Jolene Krupa, last year her team did make it to the first round of playoffs, which was the first time the girls did since the 1997-98 school year. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. And both of our teams have just faced very tough competition. So, I think Newcastle was they might have been rated number 1 or 2 in the state in AAA.
Yeah. So. The first year that I lived in Newcastle was when the Canes had an undefeated season. And so that was in 2013, I want to say. And I remember as soon as I got there was like all these parades, and the town was full of people, and I was like, what's going on? And they were like, Canes are undefeated, we're going to Hershey, and then they won that, and so they have an extremely good basketball team. And it's funny because a lot of their athletes, actually, they do more than one sport. And the one kid that we had met who was like literally, like one of their star athletes, was so humble. He was so great. And turns out that he was just as good at football. And he's playing for Ohio State now. So it was Malik Hooker. And turns out his brother same thing, multi-talented athlete, basketball, football, all that. And he's looking to go to Ohio State, I think, next year. So I was like, these kids are talented as far as sports goes, And this kid, I was just so happy when we met him because, he could have had an ego the size of Texas, and he didn't. He was the most humble, nice, sweet kid I ever met. And he was signing autographs, and taking pictures with everybody. And I thought it was pretty cool, too, to see a high school student have so much attention and handle it so well. Because young kids, they don't, he was only probably 17 years old, and he handled it really well. But so that's why I'm excited every time I hear about, Elwood and Riverside with, our athletes excelling, especially to the top of things. I get all excited. And so I'm going to look forward to seeing if Taylor can maybe set the record next time. I'm excited.
Yeah, I can't remember the person who won the WIPIO. I can't remember if she was a senior or a junior because Taylor's a junior, so
she has one more year
to
try.
Yeah.
All right. So before I step on your toes, are you done with sports?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So now that we've established that I'm not cutting you off, how about upcoming community events? Anything?
None that I can think of that I have written down.
All right. So, well, then can I just remind everybody of a couple that we have here?
Yeah.
All right, then. Okay. So WXED is having a soup fundraiser, and that's going to be on April 2nd at the Dayspring Harvest Ministry Building, 316 6th Street. And what we're doing is we're having almost like a soup, salad, bread kind of dinner. And it's $8 a person, but we're going to have several kinds of soups. Pasta fazool, chili, chicken noodle, wedding soup, Zuppa Toscana, so many varieties. What we decided is it's going to be $8 a ticket, but you get to choose 3 kinds of soup for eating, so you don't have to just try one. You could try 3. And then salad. We're not sure if we're doing breadsticks or rolls yet, but there'll be a bread. And then our desserts will be a $2 extra. If you want it, you can get it. If you don't, you don't. And we are working on getting the dessert donation from a well-known bakery in the area, so I'm looking forward to that. And we also have takeout that day. Takeout's though is just a single choice of soup because you're going to get a whole quart container, and it'll also include bread and salad. And we just decided yesterday that if, say, like a local business or an organization, if they put in 5 or more takeout orders, that if they're in the Elwood area, we'll deliver. But those takeout orders have to be in by March 31st. They have to be pre-ordered ahead of time. And if they are, then we'll deliver. So that's our big thing that's going on here. Plus, the other big thing is May 15th, which is a Sunday. WXCD is having an open house, and they're inviting the public to come here and see the studio and take a tour of the building and see what's going on. And then the other thing is we're going to let them come into the studio if they want to record a shout out. They get to do the first one for free. Because our shout outs over here it's $10 if you come in and do it over the air in your voice. It's $5 if you just want one of our DJs to read something. And the idea that I had mentioned yesterday was, whenever we think of shout outs, we always think of, somebody wants to say, oh, hey, I just want to say I really love this person, or hey, we're having a baby, or we're getting married, or, those kind of things. Then yesterday I was like thinking about just friends that I've lost, family members that I've lost, and I thought it would be really nice to do a $10 kind of a memory shout out and then have our DJs accompany that with a special dedication song. Because everybody has that one song that reminds them of somebody, and or was their special song together. So we did that. We decided though that the $10 shout outs, if you come to the open house, you get to do one for free. So that's, they'll be pre-recorded in the studio, and they may run several times. So maybe that'll help people come to the open house. So that's May 15th, and I'm not positive on the time yet, but I'll make sure that we drop it out there coming up pretty soon. All right, so anything else? Because we're kind of long on time today.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was a wrap up for me.
All right, so that's a wrap up. This was your weekly news wrap up with WXED 107.3 and elwoodcity.org. Thanks to Jonathan Cortez for coming in my studio, even though he should be off the clock now. I always asked him, I said, how come you never look happy to see me? And he said, well, because usually I'm going home at this time, but now I'm here. But it's exciting. People love to hear your wrap-up show. You guys are going to actually take the audio from the wrap-up shows here and post them on elwoodcity.org, right?
That is correct, though I cannot, like George R. Martin, I cannot give a commitment to when that will happen. Just sometime eventually that will happen.
All right. Well, guys, stay tuned and we'll let you know when that happens. Thanks for tuning in to the wrap-up show. We'll see you next week.